Commander Vexnar stood at the observation window of the Galactic Alliance warship Eternal Vigilance. His 4 eyes scanned the blue and green planet below. Earth, the humans called it, a small world in an unremarkable corner of the galaxy. Yet somehow, the creatures living there had become the most talked-about species in 12 star systems. "Commander," said Lieutenant Crix, stepping forward on his 6 legs, "the human delegation has arrived. They brought only 3 soldiers as requested." Vexnar turned slowly. His gray skin reflected the dim lights of the command deck. "Only 3. I specifically asked for their best combat unit. Do they mock us?" "I do not believe so, Commander. They said 3 was sufficient for the demonstration." Vexnar made a clicking sound with his mandibles. This showed his annoyance. The Zorath Empire had been at war with the Galactic Alliance for 200 years. Both sides had lost millions of soldiers. Both sides were tired. When the humans joined the Alliance 6 months ago, everyone thought they would be useless. They were soft creatures. They had no natural armor, no claws, no venom. Their technology was primitive compared to most spacefaring species. But reports from the front lines had been strange, very strange. "Bring them to the training arena," Vexnar ordered. "I want to see these humans for myself." The training arena was a large circular room deep inside the ship. The walls were made of reinforced metal that could stop most weapons. In the center, the floor was covered with soft material to prevent serious injuries during practice fights. Vexnar entered through the main door. His personal guard of 20 Calaxian warriors followed behind him. The Calaxians were the best fighters in the Alliance. They stood 8 feet tall. Their bodies were covered in hard scales. Each one had 4 arms, and each arm ended in razor-sharp claws. On the other side of the arena stood the 3 humans. Vexnar stopped walking. He stared at them. They were so small. The tallest one barely reached the chest of an average Calaxian. They wore simple green clothing and carried no visible weapons. One was female with dark hair tied behind her head. The other 2 were male. One had light brown skin and a shaved head. The last one had pale skin and yellow hair. "I am Commander Vexnar," he announced. "I lead the Alliance forces in this sector. You are the famous human soldiers." The female stepped forward. She moved with a confidence that seemed strange for such a small creature. "I am Sergeant Maya Chen. These are Corporal James Williams and Private Eric Johansson. We are honored to meet you, Commander." "Honored?" Vexnar clicked his mandibles again. "We shall see. I have read the reports from the Battle of Nexus Station. They claim that 7 humans held a position against 200 Zorath soldiers for 18 hours. They claim that when ammunition ran out, the humans fought with their bare hands. They claim impossible things." Sergeant Chen smiled. It was a strange expression. Humans showed their teeth when they were happy. Most species only showed teeth as a threat. "The reports are accurate, Commander." "Impossible? I mean no offense, Sergeant, but look at you. You have no natural weapons. Your skin is soft. Your bodies are fragile. How could your species survive in combat against the Zorath? Their soldiers are bred for war." The human called Williams laughed. It was a rough sound. "With respect, Commander, the Zorath have never fought anything like us before." Vexnar considered this. "Then show me. My Calaxian guards will engage your team in a training exercise. Non-lethal weapons only. Let us see what humans can do." Chen looked at her 2 companions. They nodded at each other. Something passed between them that Vexnar did not understand. Some silent communication. "We agree to the demonstration," Chen said, "but I should warn you about something first." "Warn me." "When humans are threatened, when we face danger, our bodies change. We call it the fight or flight response. Some call it the adrenaline response. It is a biological function that activates when we are in extreme situations." Vexnar waved one of his 4 hands dismissively. "All species have stress responses. This is nothing special." "Perhaps," Chen said, "but I thought you should know. Your soldiers should be ready for anything." The commander gestured to his guards. 10 Calaxians moved onto the training floor. They picked up padded weapons from the racks along the wall. The humans were given similar weapons. "The exercise ends when one side surrenders or cannot continue fighting," Vexnar announced. "Begin." The Calaxians spread out in a standard attack formation. They moved slowly, carefully. These were professional soldiers who had fought in many battles. They would not underestimate any enemy, even one as small and weak as humans. Chen, Williams, and Johansson stood back to back in a triangle formation. They held their weapons loosely. Their breathing was calm. They showed no fear. The first Calaxian attacked. He was fast for his size, moving like lightning across the floor. His weapon swung down toward Chen's head with enough force to crack stone. Chen was not there. She had moved, not just moved, but twisted her entire body in a way that seemed to break the laws of physics. The weapon passed through empty air. Before the Calaxian could recover, Chen's own weapon struck him 3 times, once in the knee joint, once in the elbow, once across the face. The massive warrior fell to the ground, stunned. The other Calaxians roared and charged. What happened next would be studied by Alliance military scientists for years. The 3 humans became something different. They moved faster than they should be able to move. They hit harder than they should be able to hit. When a Calaxian claw caught Williams across the chest, tearing through his uniform and drawing blood, he did not fall. He did not cry out. Instead, he fought harder. Vexnar watched with all 4 eyes wide open. The humans were not just defending themselves. They were winning. 2 more Calaxians fell, then 3 more. The humans worked together like parts of a single machine. When one attacked, the others defended. When one was in danger, the others saved them. Johansson took a hit to the leg that should have crippled him. Instead, he used the momentum to roll forward, coming up behind his attacker. His weapon found the gap in the Calaxian's armor at the neck. Another warrior fell. "What are they?" Lieutenant Crix whispered beside Vexnar. The commander had no answer. Chen was fighting 3 Calaxians at once. Blood ran down her arm from a wound she seemed to ignore completely. Her movements were not graceful or elegant. They were brutal and efficient. Every strike was designed to cause maximum damage. Every dodge put her in position for another attack. 7 minutes. That was all it took. 10 of the finest Calaxian warriors lay on the ground, groaning in pain. The 3 humans stood among them, breathing hard but very much standing. Williams had a deep gash across his chest. Johansson could barely put weight on his injured leg. Chen's arm hung at an odd angle, possibly broken. Yet none of them had stopped fighting. None of them had even slowed down. "Surrender is not in our nature, Commander," Chen said between heavy breaths. "When humans are pushed, we push back. It is who we are." Vexnar stepped onto the training floor. His guards moved to protect him, but he waved them away. He approached the human sergeant slowly, studying her with new eyes. "Your arm," he said, "it is broken." "Yes." "You feel no pain." Chen smiled again, that strange, toothy expression. "Oh, I feel it. I feel everything. The pain is screaming in my mind right now, but pain is just information. It tells me something is wrong. It does not control me." "How is this possible?" "Adrenaline, Commander. When our bodies sense danger, they release chemicals into our blood. These chemicals block pain. They increase our strength. They make our reactions faster. They tell our bodies that survival is the only thing that matters." Vexnar had never heard of such a thing. In all his years of warfare, in all his studies of different species, he had never encountered biology like this. The Zareth were strong because they were engineered to be strong. The Calaxians were deadly because they evolved on a predator-rich world. But humans had created themselves into weapons through pure chemical willpower. "This adrenaline," he said carefully, "how long does it last?" "In short bursts, a few minutes, but humans can learn to control it. With training, we can make it last longer. We can make it stronger. Sergeant Williams once fought for 6 hours straight during the Mars Rebellion. By the end, he had 17 broken bones. He did not stop until every enemy was dead. Vexnar looked at Williams. The human was pressing a cloth against his chest wound. He did not seem concerned about the injury. He looked almost disappointed that the fight was over. "I believe I understand now," Vexnar said slowly. "The reports from Nexus Station were not exaggerated." "No, Commander. If anything, they were understated." The commander made his decision. "I want humans on the front lines, as many as Earth can spare. You will train alongside my soldiers. You will teach them what you can." "We would be honored," Chen said, "but there is something you should understand first." "What is that?" "You cannot teach the adrenaline response. It is something all humans are born with. Every man, woman, and child on Earth has this ability. We have had it since before we came down from the trees. It is in our blood, our genes, our very souls. When a human child is scared of the dark, their body prepares them to fight monsters. When a human mother sees her child in danger, she gains the strength to lift vehicles. This is not training. This is what we are." Vexnar was silent for a long moment. Then he did something he had never done before. He bowed his head to an inferior species. "I believe the Zorath Empire is in serious trouble," he said. Sergeant Maya Chen smiled her predator's smile. "We certainly hope so, Commander." The news of the human demonstration spread through the Alliance fleet like fire through dry grass. Within days, every species in the Alliance knew about the 3 small soldiers who had defeated 10 Calaxians. The story grew with each telling. By the time it reached the outer sectors, people said the humans had fought 100 warriors and won without a single injury. The truth was impressive enough. Admiral Thorne, the highest-ranking human in the Alliance military, was summoned to a meeting of the Alliance War Council. The council chamber was located at the heart of the Alliance capital, a massive space station that floated between 3 different star systems. Representatives from 30 different species sat in a circle around a central platform. Admiral Sarah Thorne was 62 years old. Her hair was silver and cut short. Her face was lined with age and experience. She had fought in 3 human wars before humanity ever reached space. She had led the defense of Mars. She had negotiated Earth's entry into the Alliance. And now she stood before the most powerful beings in the galaxy, feeling very small indeed. "Admiral Thorne," said the counselor of the Malaxian Collective. He was a tall creature with skin like living crystal. His voice echoed strangely in the chamber. "We have reviewed the recordings from Commander Vexnar's ship. We have questions." "I will answer what I can, counselor." "This adrenaline response your species possesses. We have consulted with our finest scientists. They tell us it should not be possible. The levels of certain hormones recorded in your soldiers during combat would kill most species, yet your people seem to use it as a weapon." "That is correct." Another counselor spoke. This one was from the hive mind of Sector 7. He was a small insect-like creature who spoke for billions of connected minds. "We have examined your species in detail. Your bodies are inefficient, your senses are limited, your lifespans are short. By every measure, you should be one of the weakest species in the galaxy, yet you are not. Explain this." Admiral Thorne took a deep breath. This was the question she had been preparing to answer since humanity first made contact with alien life. "Evolution," she said simply. "Earth is a death world." Silence fell over the chamber. The term death world was not used lightly. It referred to planets where the conditions were so hostile that survival was nearly impossible. "Explain," the Crystal Counselor demanded. "Earth has extreme temperature variations. Some parts freeze while others burn. Our world is covered mostly in water, which is deadly to most species. Our planet has active volcanoes, earthquakes, hurricanes, and thousands of other natural disasters. The wildlife includes predators that can kill with a single bite, insects that carry deadly diseases, and plants that produce lethal toxins. She paused, letting her words sink in. Humans evolved on this world. We survived because we had to. Every generation, the weak died and the strong lived. Over millions of years, we developed the ability to push ourselves beyond normal limits when threatened. The adrenaline response is not a gift. It is a survival mechanism. It evolved because without it, we would have died as a species long ago. The counselor of the hive mind buzzed its wings. You are saying that your planet tried to kill you, and you fought back. Yes, and we won. We did not just survive on Earth, we conquered it. We bent it to our will. We built cities where there were swamps. We crossed oceans that should have drowned us. We climbed mountains that should have crushed us. By the time we developed space travel, there was nothing on our world that could stop us. And now you bring this fighting spirit to our war against the Zorath. We do. The Zorath may be engineered for combat. They may be stronger and faster and more deadly than humans in most ways. But they have never faced an opponent who simply refuses to die. They have never faced an enemy who becomes more dangerous when injured. They have never known what it means to fight a species that evolved on a death world. The council was silent for a long moment. Admiral Thorne could not read their alien expressions. She did not know if she had impressed them or terrified them. Finally, the Crystal Counselor spoke again. We have a proposal, Admiral. The Alliance has been fighting the Zorath for 200 years. We have lost world after world. We have tried everything we know. Nothing has worked. I understand, Counselor. We would like humanity to lead our next major offensive. Thorne had expected many things from this meeting. This was not one of them. Lead, you want humans to command Alliance forces. We want humans to show us how to fight. Your species has been at war with itself for your entire history. You have developed tactics and strategies that no other species has ever imagined. Combined with your biological advantages, we believe you may be the key to ending this war. Admiral Thorne stood straighter. She thought about all the humans who had died in all the wars throughout history. She thought about the soldiers and sailors and warriors who had given everything for their people. She thought about what humanity could do when united against a common enemy. We accept, she said, but I have conditions. Name them. First, our soldiers will not be used as disposable weapons. We are allies, not tools. Second, we will train alongside other Alliance species. We will share our knowledge freely. Third, when this war is over, humanity wants a permanent seat on this council. The counselors looked at each other. Silent communications passed between them. Thorne waited. Your conditions are accepted, the Crystal Counselor finally said. Welcome to the Alliance War Council, Admiral Thorne. Let us see what humans can do. The first major offensive came 3 months later. The target was a Zorath shipyard in the Kellen system. The shipyard produced half of the enemy's heavy cruisers. Destroying it would cripple the Zorath war effort for years. The Alliance fleet gathered at the edge of the system, 400 ships of various sizes and types. At the center of the formation was the new flagship, the Earth vessel Hope. Admiral Thorne commanded from its bridge. Status report, she ordered. All ships are in position, Admiral, her first officer replied. The enemy has detected our presence. They are moving defense forces to intercept. Thorne studied the tactical display. The Zorath had 300 ships defending the shipyard. Normally, an attacking force would need at least double the defenders to have any chance of success. The Alliance had less ships than the Zorath. But this was not a normal attack. Signal all ships, Thorne said. Execute Plan Omega. Plan Omega was a human creation. It was based on tactics that had won battles throughout Earth's history, tactics that no alien had ever considered because they were too dangerous, too reckless, too human. The Alliance fleet split into 3 groups. The first group, mostly Calaxian warships, charged straight at the enemy formation. They were loud and obvious, drawing all attention toward them. The second group, made up of smaller and faster ships, swung wide around the battle zone. They targeted the shipyard's power generators. Without power, the shipyard's shields would fall. The third group was entirely human, 20 ships crewed by 10,000 of Earth's finest soldiers. They had one job: board the shipyard and take it from the inside. The Zorath commander watched the battle unfold from his command ship. He was confident. His forces outnumbered the attackers. His weapons were superior. His soldiers were engineered for war. Victory was certain. Then the human ships disappeared. One moment they were there on his sensors. The next, they were gone. The Zorath commander screamed orders at his crew. How could 20 ships simply vanish? The answer came too late. The human ships had not vanished. They had gone dark, all power diverted from weapons and shields and sensors, running silent and cold through the chaos of battle, moving toward the shipyard like ghosts. By the time the Zorath detected them again, it was too late. The human ships had reached the shipyard's hull. Boarding pods fired, punching through metal and delivering their cargo of soldiers into the enemy station. 10,000 humans against 50,000 Zorath defenders. The Zorath should have won easily. They did not. Sergeant Maya Chen was the first through the breach. Her boots hit the shipyard's deck plating and she was already moving. Behind her came her team: Williams, Johansson, and 20 others, all of them trained and ready. "Contact front," someone shouted. Chen saw them. Zorath soldiers, big and ugly and covered in natural armor. They carried plasma weapons that could cut through steel. There were at least 50 of them in this corridor alone. "Push forward," Chen ordered. "Don't let them set up a defensive position." The humans charged. To the Zorath, it must have looked like madness. The small, soft creatures were running toward them instead of away, running toward plasma fire and certain death. It made no sense. Then the humans started fighting. Chen felt the familiar rush of adrenaline flood her system. Her pain vanished. Her fear vanished. Everything became clear and simple. There were enemies in front of her. They needed to die. Nothing else mattered. She fired her weapon until it overheated. Then she dropped it and drew her combat knife. A Zorath soldier swung at her with a clawed hand. She ducked under the blow and drove her knife into the gap at his throat. Blood sprayed. The Zorath fell. Another one grabbed her from behind. His arms were like steel cables crushing the air from her lungs. Chen headbutted backward, feeling her skull crack against his face. It hurt. She did not care. She twisted free and kicked his knee. It bent the wrong way. He screamed and fell. She finished him with her knife. "Sergeant, you're bleeding," Williams shouted. Chen looked down. A plasma bolt had grazed her side. The wound was ugly, burned flesh smoking. She could smell her own cooked meat. "I'll live," she said. "Keep moving." They kept moving. The Zorath had never seen anything like it. Humans who should have fallen kept fighting. Humans who were clearly injured refused to stop. When weapons failed, the humans used their hands. When hands were injured, they used their teeth. Every corridor became a charnel house. Word spread through the shipyard. The soft creatures were demons. They could not be killed. They felt no pain. They showed no mercy. Zorath soldiers who had never known fear in their lives began to understand it. 4 hours into the assault, Chen's team reached the shipyard's command center. They had lost 8 people on the way. 8 dead, 4 more badly wounded, but they had killed over 300 Zorath. The command center was defended by the shipyard's elite guard. 200 of the biggest, strongest, most deadly Zorath soldiers in the system. They stood behind fortified positions with heavy weapons. Chen had 12 humans left who could fight. "This is going to be ugly," Williams said. Blood covered half his face from a wound on his scalp. "Probably," Chen agreed. "Any complaints?" Williams grinned. It was the grin of a predator about to feed. "No complaints, Sergeant." Then let's finish this. They charged. The Zoreth elite fought hard. They were the best their species had to offer. They killed 3 more humans in the first minute of combat, but they could not stop the tide. Chen saw Johansson go down, a plasma bolt through his chest. She screamed, not in grief but in rage. The adrenaline in her blood became fire. She became something more than human. Later, survivors would say she moved like a demon. She was everywhere at once, killing everything in her path. Her knife broke in a Zorath's skull. She picked up a metal pipe and kept fighting. When the pipe bent, she used her bare hands. By the time it was over, Chen was the last human standing. She stood in the center of the command room, surrounded by bodies. She was covered in blood, most of it not hers. She could not remember the last 5 minutes of the fight. "This is Sergeant Chen," she said into her communicator. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Command center secured. The shipyard is ours." There was silence for a long moment. Then Admiral Thorne's voice came through. "Outstanding work, Sergeant. Medical teams are on the way. Hold your position." "Yes, ma'am." Chen sat down among the dead. She looked at her hands. They were shaking now. The adrenaline was fatting. The pain was coming back, all of it all at once. She started to laugh. Then she started to cry. Then she did both at the same time. This was the price of being human. You could push yourself beyond any limit. You could fight like a demon and win against impossible odds. But when it was over, everything came crashing back. The pain, the fear, the grief for fallen friends. Humans were not machines. They were not demons. They were just people who had learned, through millions of years of evolution, how to survive when survival seemed impossible. Chen looked at the bodies around her. Friends and enemies alike. All of them dead because of a war that had been going on for 200 years. "It's going to end," she whispered to no one. "We're going to end it, I promise." In orbit above the shipyard, the battle was ending. The Zorath fleet was in retreat. They had lost 2/3 of their ships. The Alliance had lost less than 50. Admiral Thorne watched the enemy flee. Her face showed no joy. War was never something to celebrate, but she felt a grim satisfaction. The Alliance had been losing for 200 years. Today, they had won their first major victory, and it was humans who had made it possible. "Send a message to the Council," she ordered. "Tell them Phase 1 is complete. Phase 2 begins in 3 days." The war was about to change, and the Zorath were not ready. 6 months after the shipyard victory, the war looked very different. Humans had been integrated into every level of the Alliance military. Human tactics were being studied and adopted by species that had been fighting for centuries. The concept of overwhelming aggression, of attacking when all logic said to defend, of refusing to accept defeat even when defeat was certain, these were alien ideas that were changing the Alliance from the inside. But the Zorath were adapting too. High Commander Zorak, leader of the Zorath military, stared at the reports on his screen. His clawed hands gripped the edge of his desk hard enough to leave marks in the metal. "Tell me again," he growled at the scientist standing before him. "Tell me about these humans." The scientist, a smaller Zorath named Velex, consulted his notes nervously. "The humans possess a unique biological response to extreme stress, High Commander. When threatened, their bodies release a compound they call adrenaline. This compound has multiple effects." "List them." "Increased strength, increased speed, reduced pain sensitivity, faster reaction times. In extreme cases, a phenomenon they call hysterical strength, where individuals have been observed lifting weights that should be physically impossible for their musculature." Zorak slammed his fist on the desk. "We are engineered for war. Our soldiers are faster, stronger, and more durable than any human. How are they beating us?" "Because our engineering has limits, High Commander. Our soldiers are optimized for standard combat conditions. When those conditions are exceeded, when the battle becomes desperate, our soldiers begin to fail. Humans, conversely, seem to become more effective as conditions become more desperate. Their biology rewards extreme behavior. Then we will engineer a counter. We will create soldiers who can match this adrenaline response. Velix shifted uncomfortably. We have tried, High Commander. The results were problematic. Explain. The adrenaline response is not a single system. It is integrated into every aspect of human biology. Their hearts, their lungs, their muscles, their brains, everything works together to produce the effect. When we tried to replicate it in our soldiers, the strain killed them. Their bodies simply could not handle the stress. Then find another way. The Empire will not fall to these soft creatures. Velix bowed and retreated. Zorak remained at his desk, staring at nothing. He had been a soldier for 60 years. He had killed more enemies than he could count. He had never known doubt. But now, for the first time, he wondered if victory was possible. The humans were not just winning battles. They were changing the nature of the war. They were teaching other species how to fight like them, and the Zorath, for all their engineering, could not adapt fast enough. There had to be a solution. There was always a solution. Zorak pulled up a map of the galaxy. He looked at the small blue planet called Earth, such a tiny world, so far from the front lines, so vulnerable. A plan began to form in his mind. If the humans could not be beaten on the battlefield, perhaps they could be beaten elsewhere, strike at their home, kill their families, break their spirit. It had worked against other species. It would work against humans too. Zorak began giving orders. The Zorath fleet arrived at Earth without warning. They had developed new stealth technology specifically for this mission. 50 ships, including their newest battle cruiser, the Destruction. Their mission was simple: burn Earth and break human morale. They expected to find a defenseless world. Earth had sent most of its warships to the front lines. Only a small defensive fleet remained. It would be easy. They were wrong. Admiral Thorne received word of the attack while she was briefing the Council on the next offensive. Her face went pale, then hard. "How did they get through our sensor net?" she demanded. "New stealth technology," her aide reported. "They're already in orbit. Our defensive fleet is engaging, but they're outnumbered 5-1. Casualties. Civilian evacuation is underway, but we've already lost 2 cities, Mumbai and Cairo. Combined death toll is estimated at 12 million. 12 million. Thorne felt the number like a physical blow. 12 million people, dead, because she had left Earth exposed. "Get me a ship," she ordered. "I'm going home." "Admiral, the Council meeting." "The Council can wait. Earth needs me." She did not wait for permission. She left the Council chamber at a run. On Earth, the situation was desperate. The defensive fleet had been reduced to scattered survivors. Zorath landing craft were touching down on every continent. Their soldiers were pouring into cities, killing everything in their path. But something strange was happening. The Zorath had expected the humans to run. They expected panic and terror. They expected easy targets. Instead, they found resistance. In London, an old man with a hunting rifle killed 3 Zorath soldiers before they brought him down. In New York, a group of teenagers attacked a Zorath patrol with baseball bats and kitchen knives. In Tokyo, office workers formed human barricades to let others escape, fighting with their bare hands when nothing else was available. The Zorath had studied humans in military context. They knew about soldiers and marines and special forces. They had prepared for trained fighters. They had not prepared for civilians. In Beijing, a mother shielded her children with her body when a Zorath soldier raised his weapon. When he fired, she did not die. The shot went through her chest, but she kept moving. She reached the Zorath and gouged out his eyes before she finally fell. In Sydney, a school bus driver drove his vehicle directly into a Zorath landing craft. The explosion killed him, but it also killed 30 Zareth soldiers and destroyed enough equipment to delay their advance by hours. In Sao Paulo, a street gang armed with stolen weapons ambushed a Zareth patrol. They were not soldiers. They were criminals and teenagers and people who had never held a gun before. But when the shooting stopped, 20 Zareth were dead. This was not war as the Zareth understood it. This was something else, something primal. The humans were not fighting like an army. They were fighting like a species facing extinction. Every person, regardless of age or training or ability, was willing to die to protect their home. The adrenaline response was not just in human soldiers. It was in human bakers and teachers and children. It was in human grandmothers and accountants and bus drivers. Every single human on Earth had millions of years of evolution telling them one simple thing: fight back. And they did. The Zareth advance slowed, then it stopped. In some places it reversed. High Commander Zarak watched from the destruction with growing disbelief. His soldiers were dying by the thousands, not to military forces but to ordinary civilians. The planet was supposed to be defenseless. Instead, it was becoming a death trap. "Signal all forces," he ordered. "Begin orbital bombardment. If we cannot take this planet, we will destroy it." The weapons officer hesitated. "High Commander, that would require us to lower our shields to charge the main batteries." "Do it." At that moment, every alarm on the destruction began to scream. Admiral Thorne's ship dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. She was not alone. Behind her came every Alliance ship that could be spared from the front lines. 200 vessels, crewed by 50 different species, all racing to defend one small planet. "Target the destruction," Thorne ordered. "All ships maximum firepower." The Zareth flagship had lowered its shields to charge its planet-killing weapons. It was defenseless. Thorne's fleet hit it with everything they had. The destruction died in a ball of fire that was visible from Earth's surface. High Commander Zorak died with it, along with 6,000 Zoreth soldiers. The remaining Zoreth ships tried to flee. Some made it, most did not. In the cities below, the Zareth ground forces found themselves suddenly cut off. No reinforcements, no air support, no extraction. They were alone on a planet full of very angry humans. They did not last long. 1 week after the Battle of Earth, Admiral Thorne stood in the ruins of Mumbai. The city was gone. 12 million people had lived here. Now there was only rubble and ash and grief. Sergeant Maya Chen stood beside her. Chen had been on Earth when the attack came. She had fought in the streets of Delhi for 18 hours before reinforcements arrived. She had lost an eye and 3 fingers. She did not seem to care about either. "The Council is calling this a turning point," Thorne said quietly. "They say the war will be over within a year." "Good," Chen replied. "About time." The Zareth made a mistake. They thought attacking civilians would break us. Instead, it united every species in the Alliance. Everyone saw what humans did, how ordinary people fought and died to protect their home. It changed things. "Ordinary people," Chen repeated. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "There's no such thing as an ordinary human, Admiral, not when it matters." Thorne nodded slowly. She looked at the destruction around them, so much death, so much loss, but also so much courage, so much determination. "The Calaxians have a new word," she said. "They created it specifically for us. It roughly translates to those who become more dangerous when wounded. They say it with respect now." "And the Zoreth, what do they call us?" Thorne smiled grimly. "They call us the biological impossibility. They still don't understand how we can do what we do. Their scientists keep trying to explain the adrenaline response, and they keep failing." "Because it's not just adrenaline," Chen said. "It's not just chemicals in our blood, it's who we are, it's what we are. Humans don't give up, we don't surrender. When everything is lost, we find something more. It's in our bones." Admiral Thorne looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, the Zoreth Empire was preparing for its final defeat. They had thought humans were weak because they were small and soft. They had been wrong. Strength was not about size or armor or weapons. Strength was about what you were willing to do when all hope was gone. Strength was about getting up when you should stay down. Strength was about fighting with broken bones and bleeding wounds, and a fire in your heart that refused to go out. The Zoreth were engineered for war. Humans had evolved for survival. In the end, survival always won. "Let's go home, Sergeant," Thorne said. "We have a war to finish." Chen nodded. They walked away from the ruins together, two humans among the stars, carrying the weight of their species on their shoulders. Behind them, the sun set over what had been Mumbai. Tomorrow would bring more work, more fighting, more loss, but also, eventually, victory. Because that was what humans did. They survived, they adapted, they fought. And they never, ever gave up. 1 year later, the Zoreth Empire signed the Treaty of Eternal Peace. The war that had lasted 200 years was finally over. The Alliance had won. At the signing ceremony, the new Zoreth leader asked Admiral Thorne a question that had been bothering him. "How," he asked simply, "how did your species become what you are?" Thorne thought for a long moment before answering. "We were afraid," she said finally. "For millions of years we were afraid of everything. The dark, the cold, the predators, the diseases. Everything on our world wanted to kill us, and we were small and weak and alone. But you survived." "Yes, we survived because we refused to accept death. We turned our fear into anger. We turned our weakness into strength. Every time something tried to kill us, we found a way to kill it back. And eventually, there was nothing left that could threaten us." The Zoreth leader studied her with his dark eyes. "You are a terrifying species, Admiral." "Yes," Thorne agreed. "We are. But we are also capable of great kindness, great love, great compassion. The same fire that makes us fight also makes us protect. The same determination that makes us kill also makes us heal." She extended her hand in the human gesture of peace. The Zoreth leader, after a moment's hesitation, took it. "Welcome to the Alliance," Thorne said. "Let us see what we can build together." The Zoreth leader looked at their joined hands. Such small, soft fingers, such an ordinary gesture, and yet somehow it felt like the beginning of something new. "Yes," he said, "let us see." On planets across the galaxy, beings of every species watched the ceremony. They saw the end of a 200-year war. They saw the beginning of a new era of peace. And they remembered the humans, the small, soft, impossible creatures who had changed everything, the beings who turned weakness into strength and fear into fury, the species that evolution had designed for one purpose: to survive, no matter the cost. The aliens had discovered the human adrenaline response and called it biological. But it was more than that. It was the distilled essence of millions of years of struggle. It was the gift of ancestors who had fought and died so their descendants could live. It was the fire in human blood that burned brightest when all other lights had gone out. It was, in the end, simply being human. And that was more than enough.